Hello again, Year 10. It's Miss Crump here. Today we are going to be studying the third of our 15 poems for the poetry section of the literature exam. I hope you've enjoyed the two we've looked at so far. You will need to have worked through YouTube lessons 7 and 8 before you do today's lesson, as we will be using some of the skills we've already learnt again. For today's lesson, you'll need your workbook, a pen and highlighters if you have them, and don't forget to mute your social media notifications so you can really concentrate. If you need to, press pause while you get your things, and when you're ready, press play to move on. I'd now like you to work through your do now. Press pause, answer the questions, and then press play to check your answers. So a strong rhyme, where the final rhyming syllable is stressed, like hand and land, is masculine rhyme. A weak rhyme, where the final rhyming syllable is unstressed, 7, given, is called feminine rhyme. So look carefully at the last word in the line, and if the final syllable doesn't have a beat on it or a stress on it, then it's feminine, and if it does, then it's masculine. Old-fashioned language or values is archaic. We've come across that term before. And you should know the last two. A type of imagery where something's given human qualities is personification. And when lines run onto each other without punctuation, that's called enjambment. Today's lesson is going to be on Love's Philosophy by Percy by Shelley. He's one of the Romantic poets. More about that later. Our objectives are to explore and annotate love's philosophy, to practice using different strategies to write part of an exam answer, and they're going to be the strategies that we've learnt so far in the unit. And finally, a little bit of work on developing a personal interpretation. We're going to be using the same set of questions to guide us through our analysis as we did last lesson, so make sure you can see page 1 of lesson 7. We'll begin with the title and then our first reading, annotate for form, structure and language, think about deeper meanings, and then make some links with other poems. Before you annotate the title this time, have a careful look at all the possible definitions of philosophy in your workbook. Then use these ideas to help you annotate the title with your ideas about what it suggests about the theme, tone and content of the poem. Press pause, complete the activity, and then press play to move on. Now it's time for your first reading. Read through the poem and begin to form your interpretation. Press pause, read through the poem, complete the sentences for activity 3, and then press play to move on. Love's Philosophy by Percy by Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix together with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In another being's mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heaven, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower could be forgiven if it disdained its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. What are all those kissings worth, if thou not kiss me? So what's the poem about? The poem seems to be about someone wanting someone else to kiss them, and maybe more. What argument is the speaker making? They argue that since many things in nature are together in pairs and seem to touch one another, then it would be only right to follow the laws of nature and God and to kiss. Like all your other set texts, you'll need to know about the context to help you understand the poems fully. Read through the contextual information in your booklet and answer the questions below. Press pause, complete activity 4, and then press play to move on. Now it's time to examine the poem in detail and look at the writer's use of language, form and structure. Use the questions from lesson 1, what to look for in a poem, and the terminology in your poetry anthology and writer's methods knowledge organisers to help you annotate the poem. The first 4 lines have been done for you as an example. You should take your time with this activity, press pause, complete the annotations and press play to move on. Now that you've annotated the poem with your own ideas, you should now add to your notes with points from revision guides online and any books that you have, as well as school resources. Feel free to pause to look at my annotations now, but you can find a link to the YouTube video of me creating them in Show My Homework. The poem's simplicity leaves it open to interpretation and raises many questions. Is the speaker Shelley or a character he's created? Does the speaker believe in a law divine that commands people to procreate? Or is he using religion to persuade a woman to enter into a sexual relationship with him? Try to develop your own views based on the evidence. For activity 6, I'd like you to think about how persuasive the poem is. The speaker argues that because everything in nature seems to be connected, the girl he is talking to should kiss him. Do you think he puts together a convincing argument? Give reasons for your answer. Press pause, complete the activity and press play to move on. Now we're going to practice using some of the paragraph structures that we've already looked at to help you think of high-level interpretations and structure your answers. The annotation video might help you with this task. Press pause, complete activity 7A and then press play to move on. You could have answered these questions in a number of ways, but I'll talk you through a possible set of answers. Remember, your point is an overview of the contents of your paragraph and should be a mini answer to the question. I would write something like, Shelley presents his feelings for the woman as being natural and inevitable. For example, he says, no sister flower could be forgiven if it disdained its brother. This metaphor compares the couple to flowers and suggests that it would be wrong for one flower to reject another flower and therefore wrong for her to reject him. By referring to the flowers using the terms sister and brother, Shelley represents the relationship as fraternal, innocent and wholesome, despite the fact that he is in fact expressing his desire for physical romantic relationship. And whilst giving the flowers genders helps to strengthen the personification and therefore the argument that humans are just like flowers, the modern reader cannot fail to notice that he's actually saying that it's wrong for a female to refuse a male. Brother and sister even have religious overtones, and Shelley seems to almost be suggesting that it would be a sin to reject his advances, even though the couple are apparently not married. Shelley was an atheist and was expelled from university for these religious views, which were shocking to the establishment at the time. We're therefore left wondering whether his invocation of religion in the poem is truly cynical, immoral move on his part. However, the simplicity and sheer hyperbole of the conceit in the context of the whole poem could suggest a more playful tone. Perhaps Shelley's real intention is to mock the stereotypical lonely lover who desperately seeks affection from the opposite sex, but his wholly unconvincing attempts succeed only in making him less attractive. Now we're going to practice using LMS to help us deepen our understanding and analysis of the poem. This poem is based on a conceit, a long extended metaphor where different aspects of the comparison are made. Here, the main argument is that everything in nature is together, therefore he and the woman he likes should be together too. It is particularly interesting to look at in terms of our 3 layers of meaning. For activity 7, look at the quotation, the sunlight clasps the earth and the moonbeams kiss the sea. Have a go at breaking it down into literal, metaphorical and symbolic meaning. You may want to read over the example paragraph on sing-song as a guide before you get started. Press pause, complete activity 7b, and then press play to move on. This is one way you might analyse this quotation using LMS. The last element of the union in nature conceit is of the way the sun and moon bring light to the earth, and the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. Literally, the speaker is describing the way the sun and moon cast light over the earth. Metaphorically, the verbs clasp and kiss invoke romantic connotations of the sun and moon, personifying them and suggesting that they are physically embracing and caressing the earth. This, the speaker is arguing, is the way the two of them should be. Symbolically, the sun often represents cosmic power, the life force that enables all things to thrive and grow, whilst the moon can symbolise death, birth and resurrection. Furthermore, the sun is usually seen as a masculine force and the moon feminine. In this way, Shelley brings together all elements of nature, perhaps suggesting that the power of love unifies all of creation. I do hope that you found today's lesson useful. For more ideas, make sure you watch the annotation video and the professional reading. This is the last poem we will look at before the summer. Next lesson, we'll be learning how to plan and structure an answer to an exam question in preparation for your assessment next week.